Hey YouTube, I'm Jerry Lowlife, and welcome to another episode of the entertainment industry. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Jerry Lowlife. So talking about this video, it was kind of special to me because the coordination was a little bit different than most interviews I do. Drew Cochrane is out of Dundee, Scotland, so there's like a big time difference there. And I don't know if you guys aren't familiar, I do these interviews live on my other channel on Facebook. I do them every week at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So talking to him, we were like, I can make a difference of time for you because it's a different time change. So that way you're not up so late. He said, man, let's go ahead and stick with your schedule and we'll just do it then. I was just like, wow, man, thank you so much. That was super awesome of him. So big shout out to Drew for taking time out of his day, but not only that, sticking with his schedule. So when we did this interview, it was 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for me. And in Scotland, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I just thought that was super awesome. Anyways, this is a great interview with Drew. Drew is out of Dundee, Scotland. I've known him, like I said, back in the day since I was with Chimera and being a stage manager and drum technician. His band Catalysis just got done doing a huge show at Bloodstock. So it was really cool catching up with him, talking to him, and just being able to see how things have been going. So I just thought this would be a great interview for you guys to check out. He's such a great guy, great band, a lot of good things we talked about. If you guys want to know more about him and Catalysis, I'll have all of their socials at the description below this video. You guys go check them out, and please, as well for me, hit those likes on these videos, leave comments. It helps me out a ton. And if you guys could head on over to Facebook, you guys can see these live every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Head on over to Facebook, give me a follow, like some of the videos. It helps so much, guys. Anyways, I won't keep you. Let's get to the video. Talk to you guys soon. Love you all. Drew, how's it going, man? How are you doing today, sir? I know it's really late.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. It's a Friday evening, no work tomorrow morning, so not bad at all.
Well, that's good. Well, I appreciate you staying up real late for me and staying on my time. That's it's very awesome of you to do that. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you so much, man. So I was kind of, telling chat here. I guess I met you when I was on the tour with Chimera. I think that's when it was. I can't recall the exact year. And you were playing with your band. I want to say it was called Excellent Cadaver. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a Chimera tour in spring 2012. So it was with the lineup that had Matt Schlachta, Jeremy Creamer, Emil Wersler, Austin Damond on drums. So that iteration of Chimera, March 2012. And I first met you at the show in Glasgow. Where I was just there attending. Then the next day in Dundee, my band Excellent Cadaver, which is you were bang on, dead right. We played that show, and then the third day, up in Aberdeen, we came along too, and I think I ended up helping you guys out because one of your crew had busted his back, so I helped you guys with the load out of the venue and stuff that day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually remember that now that you were talking about that. I was like, that's right. You did. You came in and helped us out. It was really awesome of you. Yeah. So, God, man, time flies. I can't believe it's been that long ago. It's crazy.
10 years. 10 years, man. It's insane.
Crazy, man. It does not seem like it's been 10 years. my first question always to musicians is, what made you want to become a musician? Was there something that happened, or some song or some band that you saw?
So for me, my dad's a drummer, and when I was growing up, he always did play, and even now still does play in a lot of the local kind of Scottish punk rock bands. So I was brought up in a house with punk and metal and stuff, just regularly on rotation. It was, we didn't have like the Beatles and stuff on. We had The Exploited, and my dad had Vulgar Display of Power and all this kind of stuff. So I grew up kind of listening to stuff like that. And I kind of always wanted to play drums, but my dad, as a drummer, said to me, "Listen, son, you don't want to play drums. Drums are too loud. You can't have them in the house. We can buy you drums, but you're never going to be able to play them and stuff. So you should maybe take up the guitar instead." And I was like, "Well, I kind of want to play drums," but I picked up the guitar, and for the first little while, I didn't really gel with it, and then the big kind of inspiring pivotal points for me were hearing the self-titled Chimera album. After hearing Impossibility of Reason and stuff, and Rob was always a great player, but the difference in the stuff he was playing on the self-titled to Impossibility seemed like a huge jump. And then the album that really did it for me, like two more years down the line, was Machine Head: The Blackening. All the double guitar, harmony solos and stuff like that, and I was like, yeah, damn, like screw the drums, like I could fully commit to the guitar thing.
Nice.
So I grew up in a musical household, and then it was just a love of those kind of bands, and seeing the guys in those bands become better themselves.
Right. That's
That
awesome,
was
man.
inspiring. I'm in a really fortunate position where I got to meet my heroes. I've become friends with Phil Demmel. I was just hanging out with Phil at Bloodstock Festival and at the
Cool.
weekend there. He's playing guitar with Lamb of God just now. He's filling in for Willie. So I was hanging out with Phil. He took us up. We watched Violence from the side stage while he was playing with those guys too. So still super close with Phil, super close with Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Don't really keep in touch with Rob.
Okay.
But,
okay. All right.
They'll always be my favorite band.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool, Drew. I'm really glad that you got to kind of meet some lifetime heroes in that sense. That's really awesome, man. A lot of people don't really get to do that often. And then on top of that, you're getting to play and do great shows too. You know what I mean? It's awesome, man. It's great seeing you out there doing that stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm in a crazy position when I look back on the things I've done with music, and I'm not saying I'm some big deal, but like when we were in Dundee, when you were with Chimera, Mark recorded guest vocals for a track for my old band.
Yeah.
I've had Phil Demmel played a solo on the Catalysis record. Like, how many people, even guys in huge bands, there's not so many people that are going to be able to say they've had, someone from each of their two favorite bands appear on their records. Like, there's very few people that have been fortunate enough to do that. And like, to me, I'm just a guy from Scotland. I'm not a big deal. I don't have like a label backing me to get these guest spots. Like, so it really means a lot that like the likes of Mark and Phil especially, man. I have Phil's face tattooed on my arm here. Like,
right.
So, it's sick that not many people get to live that kind of experience and do those kind of things.
Exactly. Well, and coming straight from me, my impression of you're very impressionable and you're a good person. You've always kept in touch. So, I'd like to think that kind of follows suit with a lot of people that you meet. So, I think that's a good thing to have on your shoulders. So good for you, man. It's really awesome. So,
thanks, man.
So moving on, do you have like any other hobbies or interests outside of music at all?
So, the usual. Like, I play a lot of video games and stuff. Like most people these days who are into metal. I just fully completed Elden Ring. All the achievements on Xbox.
Whoa, nice.
No, it was a slog, man. It was a slog. But yeah, so I did that. I do a bit of production stuff. So I do all our recording. Sometimes I help out a few friends' bands, stuff like that.
Okay.
And my other big thing that I'm into is cars.
Okay.
So there's a group of guys I know, and we quite often go on the weekend out to the back roads, drive up. We live in Scotland, so we have the Scottish Highlands, which are, lots of twisty mountain roads, beautiful, breathtaking scenery and stuff. So we like to get out into nature and make some noise with noisy engines. spoil that peaceful tranquility,
I mean, it's kind of like almost a flip side of where I live, because in Oklahoma, that seems to happen a lot too. Like on the Discovery Channel, they have some hot rods and they have drag races here that they do live on the Discovery Channel. That is actually from literally probably 20 minutes away from me. And
Nice.
So it's a big time thing here. People go mud bogging and everything too. But as far as the beauty goes, I think you guys got the beautiful scenery out there in Scotland. I think it's pretty awesome. So I enjoyed it when I was out there for sure. But that's
Definitely.
awesome. That's cool. Nice. Yeah, I didn't know you were a gamer. That's really cool. That's awesome. I'm a big gamer myself. I play first person shooters a lot though. So are there like major strengths you feel like you have that make you a really good musician?
I mean, firstly, I wouldn't describe myself as a really good musician. I'm like perfectly adequate. I'm a decent guitar player for sure, but I'm certainly not going to be winning any awards. I'm not going to be on the cover of Total Guitar next year or anything like that. But I think my main thing that makes me a good musician, to be honest, is more my songwriting than my. I'm a decent player and stuff. I'm certainly competent. I can hold my own. But I've always really, really believed that no matter what genre of music you're writing for, whether it's pop, rap, death metal, doesn't make a difference. You need to have that killer hook in the song. And when we're writing as a band, I feel like I'm the person in the band who's always driving that need to have the killer hook. And it doesn't matter if the killer hook is like a vocal melody in the chorus, or whether it's like a super catchy guitar line, or like that riff that won't get out of your head,
Right.
So I feel like my strength as a musician is like the drive to always include that killer hook to make people remember the song and make them come back to it,
Okay.
Wow. And I guess other than that, just determination, like like a lot of people, when I picked up the guitar, I sucked, everybody sucks when they start, except for those like lucky few who are just like naturally freakishly good. But like, so I put a lot of hours into playing, And
Right.
even now, I've been playing for 17 years or something now, and I think actually in the past couple of years, I've put more time in. A lot of people, when they first start out, they do the whole, they come home from school, they burn like 6, 7, 8 hours a day playing. They go to bed, they put down the guitar, they go to school, they come home, they pick up the guitar, they play till they go to bed, and they do that on a loop. And I've actually found that, especially with COVID in the last couple of years, I've had so much more time, because I've been working from home instead of driving to the office and all that kind of stuff. And because I couldn't go anywhere, couldn't go and play shows, so I just spent so much more time focusing on my playing, on technique, playing with a metronome, all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
yeah, determination and persistence.
Well, that's good. That's awesome. Yeah, there has been so much time, and most of the musicians I talk to, they've just had so much time, like either writing or focusing on certain things, mainly because of COVID. And I myself, reaching out to all these people, they're just like, dude, I got so much time on my hands. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys writing new albums? Are you just practicing? Did you take up a new hobby? Are you going out fishing? What are you doing? Like, everybody's like asking me questions about bands that I worked for too. They're like, what are these guys doing? And all this stuff. I'm like, well, I don't know, like, so, it's been real interesting in the last year or two, even me doing these interviews on here, because a lot of people are just curious. They just want to know. So yeah, absolutely. So those are really good strengths, Drew. And, it does take a lot of determination, and the practice makes perfect. You just gotta roll with the punches and take advantage of the times that you have. So it sounds like you did. And it sounds like things are kind of panning out a little bit better now. It looks like things are opening up and people are going to shows now. So it's awesome, man. That's really awesome. What is it about music that makes you feel passionate? Is there a specific thing about music that makes you feel passionate?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing which made me really connect with music at sort of, that impressionable teenage stage, and it's always stuck with me through life, was like a lot of people who went to high school, they listened to heavy metal, they had long hair and people were giving them abuse, get a haircut, you're a goth, a freak, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really feel like I fit in. And so listening to bands, like Machine Head, like Chimera, Korn especially as well, like bands where the lyrics were like really relatable in that sense, because those, the singers of those bands have gone through similar things. Mark Hunter's a perfect example. You listen to his lyrics and you could tell how pissed off at the world he was, and like as a teenager I felt that inside. And other genres of music, other kinds of music didn't really give me that feeling where I could really relate to it. And I think that even as an adult in the world today, a lot of metal, the lyrics are about the problems in society and the problems of the world and stuff, and it's something I can really relate to. And I'll be damned if metal does not just get the blood pumping, like
Right.
if you're in the gym, there's nothing better to go to the gym and lift weights to metal. You don't want to be listening to country and western in the gym. Like there's just something about metal that is like it's like caveman music, like Jamie Jasta says. It's like it's just angry caveman music, and I think that appeals to like something primal in me.
I could agree with that fully. I couldn't work out to a country album, that's for sure. That'd be kind of difficult for me.
Yeah, but you slam on some Pantera, you lift some weights.
Oh, dude, it gets you going. Time. Oh God. And yeah. I ride my bike daily.
Same in the car,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You get in the car, you're driving along, that big riff hits, and suddenly you put your foot down and you're doing 100, you're supposed to be doing 50. You're like,
right.
Metal just takes over you that way,
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. That's a good description of the passion of music in general. So here's a favorite one I always like to ask. Describe your favorite and least favorite part about being a musician.
So my favorite part is the playing the live shows. There is no buzz on earth like getting up on stage and performing. And especially for guys like me who have like a normal day-to-day job and all the frustrations that come with that and stuff as well, just getting up on stage, you take the hair down when it's been tied up all week for your office job and all the rest of it. You crank that valve amp up there, you get the feeling of it moving behind you, and you're headbanging, you're moshing, you see the crowd go off too. You look over, me and the other guitar player in the band, we nail the pinch harmonic, you get the big squeal, you look over and you get the smile and that connection and stuff. So 100% playing live is the best part. For me, the worst part of being in a band is that every band I've ever been in, and every band has one, but I am the guy who does everything. And you've played in bands as well, Jerry, so you know the score.
Yes.
Every band has one dude, and he does the booking, he does the merch, he does the, he runs the socials, he organizes the rehearsals. He has to tell everybody about the rehearsal 10 times because nobody listens.
Right.
And that in my band, that's me. And that's the worst part of being in the band, is like being band dad 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But
I can get that. You got to
take the good with the bad.
You do. Yeah. Being the business guy in the band is like absolutely like a headache sometimes. It's like, come on, guys, can you help me out with some of this stuff? Like take one thing, or even just show up on time. Come on, let's just show up on time for practice, or let's show up on time for these gigs. It becomes a pain, and I can relate to that big time. So let's talk about your band. Now, okay. When did this project start? And the name of the band is?
So the band is called Catalysis, and we started in kind of December 2016. My old band, Excellent Cadaver, which is who I was playing with when I met you, we split up, and the drummer of Catalysis, his band split up around about the same time. There's only a couple of weeks apart. And we'd been speaking anyway, because neither one, we both kind of knew it was winding down with our respective bands. So we'd been speaking a little bit, and we got together. The first rehearsal, I had 2 songs that were going to be new Excellent Cadaver songs, and obviously that band was done. So I was like, okay, let's jam these out and see if anything sticks. That rehearsal went well, and we were like, okay, there's something in this, and I I gave the guitar player, the other guitar player from Excellent Cadaver, a call and was like, "Hey man, do you want to get involved in this? It's something new. It'll be a little bit different, but not too different." And he was keen, and we just kind of built it up from there. We've been through a few lineup changes and stuff over the years, as is the way of things.
Mhm.
We started off as a 5-piece, and then we became a 4-piece. Our bass player took over doing vocals, and then he decided he was going to. So he was playing. He started off on just bass, then he moved to bass and vocals, and
Okay.
then he moved to just vocals, and we brought in a bass player. So we've changed out about a little bit, but we've been together now for coming up 5 years.
Oh wow. Okay. That's awesome. So, what would be you guys like? What's another thing I like to talk about too is the creative process. What type of creative process do you guys have when you're writing music? Do you have like a staple you stick to, or is it just it just comes and goes?
So one of our things is we have a really high output for a band of our size. We put out a lot of material.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always writing, always. So like I say, we've sort of first started playing shows and stuff early 2017, and since then we put out 4 EPs and a full length, and that's with 2 years of COVID in the middle and stuff as well. So we're really productive. In the beginning, it started that I was the predominant writer, just because I'd kind of formed the band and was pulling the guys in and stuff. Now the creative process is a little bit different. Our other guitar player, Sean, probably writes 60% of the stuff. I write 40, but over time it's kind of evolved where it used to be I'd bring in a couple of songs for an EP, he'd bring a couple of songs, and that would be it. Now everything we write, I maybe bring the bulk of a song to the table, but then Sean will have his input, he'll finesse it and stuff. And I think because we're all competent with Pro Tools and stuff, we can demo stuff at home, So I'll write up some riffs, record them to a click, send them over to our drummer, and he'll put some easy drummer program drums down. We'll send that over to our other guitar player. He'll be like, well, what if we change this riff a bit? And so we just send stuff back and forward, WhatsApp messages, like, what if we played this riff like that? And then we get into the room with basically complete songs.
Okay.
We don't really go into the room and jam, because it starts to get expensive, and people start to get bored, and one guitar player starts noodling over the top of everything. And like I say, you're a musician, you've been in bands, you probably know the way it goes when you're jamming,
Right.
So we prefer to try and finesse the songs at home first. Bouncing ideas back and forward. And because we all have rigs at home where we can record and stuff, it's super easy to work on things that way now. So we go into the studio with basically a complete song. We jam it out a couple of times like that as a band with 90% of the way there, and then we maybe tweak a few bits and pieces. You discover something doesn't have quite the right flow that you thought it would have when you're playing it live, or a bit's too slow or a bit too fast. And then we bring our singer in and get him to start writing stuff.
Okay.
Because we had a few things before where he'd come in, he'd start to write vocals, and then he'd come back 2 weeks later and we'd changed all the riffs, and he'd get really annoyed that he'd spent his time writing stuff.
Right.
So we try and give him like as complete a picture as you could possibly have before he starts to put vocals in, and then for like back-end vocals and stuff, I do all the I produce all our stuff. I don't mix it, but I do all the tracking and stuff, and so we wait till he comes over, he tracks his vocals, and from there we start to work out what backing we want to do, and like, will I be able to realistically play it while I'm singing live and stuff like that. So we try and make sure that whatever we're doing is something that we could do it like a good representation of live. It's not going to be super thin or small sounding live.
Right.
But we don't want to use backing. We don't want backing tracks and all that kind of stuff. Having to play to clicks. We want to keep it like live and energetic feeling for live. So we try and write with that in mind. And you're right to stuff that is going to get the crowd going a bit. You got to put those hey moments in. And
Yeah.
Get everybody. So
have
we try and write that into the songs.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I almost prefer the whole thing with doing it organically. I don't know, the click track stuff is cool, it's fine. Obviously I worked for a lot of bands that did it, But I think the organic stuff is so good because it just feels like it's got so much more interaction, and you can like fill the crowd out, and you can add more stuff to it live, you know. Another question too I'd like to ask is, do you guys actually write in a certain, like a note to keep in tone with your vocalist? Like, is there a key that you guys stay in for that reason at all, or does that really not matter?
I don't really know if it's specifically to stay in key with him. So I've pretty much always played in drop C tuning,
Mhm.
which puts us in like sort of C minor for
Mhm.
most kind of metal stuff.
Mhm.
That's because when I grew up, I was listening to a lot of Chimera, the kind of new wave American heavy metal stuff. It was all drop C, drop B.
Right.
And
Right.
so my guitars were just tuned that way. So when I started to write stuff, it was in that tuning.
Okay.
And most of our vocals, like we have like the odd, big clean chorus or whatever there. But most of our vocals are harsh, aggressive vocals anyway, so I don't think it matters too much.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
think our singer's comfortable in C. Maybe we've spoken before about dropping it down to drop B, because then he wouldn't have to reach for quite so many high notes in the clean bits. But
I,
yeah, I think we're pretty happy there.
that's cool.
All
Yeah.
our favorite bands are in that tuning.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm always curious about that because in bands I've been in personally, we always, like, we had one that we just started not too long ago. I'm just having fun with it, but we were auditioning vocalists and we found one, but he came to us and said, "Hey, can we tune this a little bit lower?" So we literally changed our entire like scaling and keys to just perform along with the vocalist. So I'm always just curious about that. Um, so I got a video up right now. This was you guys' performance. It's one that I found that was in Bloodstock that you guys just did. So this was really cool to check out. How was that? How was the show there? How did you guys feel about it? Was it good? Did you guys have a good one?
Yeah, so the show at Bloodstock was awesome. It was really stressful for us. So we live in Scotland. Bloodstock is like a 7-ish hour drive away in Derbyshire, England.
Wow.
And 2 or 3 days before the show, we found out that we had been given the support slot to open for Avatar, who are a big Swedish kind of, not mellow death, but they're kind of up there in the
Mm-hmm.
Liquid Room, which is like a 600 capacity room, and it was going to be a really good show. They were playing Bloodstock 2 on the same day as us, so we found out that we were going to open for them in Edinburgh on the Thursday evening, and our set time for Bloodstock was like 2:15 in the afternoon. So we played the Avatar show, and we had to hire backline in because we didn't need to take our backline down to Bloodstock, and
Mm-hmm.
like logistically it would be too much hassle to play the Avatar show in Edinburgh with our stuff, take that stuff back home, then drive like 9 hours that way because we'd be going further back up north.
Wow.
So we basically we drove through the night to get to Bloodstock. We got there and it was like 35 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I'm sorry, but
You're
it's
good.
really hot. I can tell you that.
Right.
for
All
for
right.
Scottish guys, 35 is super hot.
Right.
In summer we usually get to like 22, 23. So for 35, we were like, oh
I'm
god, I'm
curious.
gonna melt.
I'm actually gonna look at the conversion real quick. So that would be about like 91 degrees for us. So yeah, that's pretty hot. That's pretty warm there. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and like I say, for Scottish guys, we don't get weather like that. So we drove through the night. We had like no sleep. We got there, and then we we had a great time, great time. But Bloodstock has 4 stages, and right as we were supposed to go on, Bloodstock had a secret set from a band, and everybody wanted to go and check out what the secret band was, understandably. And
Uh-huh.
the secret band was Machine Head, so we clashed with Machine Head, which I
uh,
think like it affected our crowd a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. We still had a
mm,
great time. We still had a great crowd. The people that were there were into it. They enjoyed it. We got
heck
good
yeah.
feedback from people. We spoke to a lot of the other bands that were on kind of about the same time, and they said the same thing about what are you gonna do? Like
Right, right.
this is the thing. This is the thing with these kind of festivals. When you have 4 stages, you're going to clash with someone.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
It's bound
but
to happen.
Yeah, so that was that wasn't amazing, but like, it was still an incredible opportunity to go to play the festival, and then we got to spend the weekend hanging out. I got to catch up with Phil, and I got to watch Lamb of God. We watched Violence. We watched a Swedish band called Orbit Culture, who for me are like the number one thing that's happening in metal right now is Orbit Culture. So we got to check them out, and then we spent a good bit of time on Sunday afternoon drinking beers with those guys and stuff. So it was just a really, really good experience, and it was a great thing to be a part of, and hopefully we made the right impression on the right people, and we'll maybe be back in a couple of years' time on one of the other stages.
Right.
It's remains to be seen, but you have to take all of these things as the opportunity they are, which is to go to network, to meet other bands. We made some connections with bands from down in England, and we're going to do some show swaps with them. I'm going to bring them up to Dundee. We're going to go down there. So the show at Bloodstock itself was great fun. It's amazing playing on a big stage and all that kind of stuff. The crowd was a little bit disappointing, and I think, like I say, individually we were like all over the place from driving all night and the heat and stuff like that. But
Right.
it was an amazing opportunity. We made a lot of good, solid connections and stuff. Like, so you take that away from it, and it was a good time.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's all you can do, especially when it's just you. You don't have text. You don't have people like really just driving you guys around and all that stuff. It's like it's a one all big machine. Like you're having to do the drives, you're having to make all that stuff happen. And you exert yourself, you get to the show, you're kind of tired, and then but you're still like full throttling, and it's definitely I could see where it'd be an awesome opportunity to network, make connections, have people see you guys, that that may have not heard you guys before. And so
exactly.
That's super awesome. So many good positive things that can come out of that. So yeah, I was really happy to see you guys going to Bloodstock and doing that. I was like, yeah, go, let's do this. That's super cool, man.
For sure.
So,
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think the thing is as well, we had, like I say, we had that Avatar show the night before in Edinburgh, which was really last minute, and myself and Sean, the guitar players in the band, Avatar is one of our favorite bands. We've only known about them for a few years, but their guitar players are super interesting and stuff. And so we played that show, and the room was crazy packed. We met the band, hung out with them, got to, again, like you were speaking about earlier, we got to hang out with our heroes a little bit and stuff. And so I think that we were still like on top of the world from that show. And I think any other day, if we played that same show at Bloodstock with the same crowd, same numbers and stuff, we would be like, yeah, that was the best show we ever played. But because we had such a killer show the night before, it just seemed like that little bit less than we were maybe expecting,
Right.
Because that's how it goes. You have like the super amazing highs, and you get like when you have a high, there's always going to be a trough after it, right? So Bloodstock was sick, and it was one of the best shows we've ever played. But I think the show we played the night before was the best show we've ever played.
Oh,
and so that's always going to be a tough one to follow, Like,
right.
It was with one of our favorite bands, to a packed room. We had loads and loads of people super interested. People were asking us for set lists and stuff afterwards, and you're like, okay, cool. People asking us to sign them and stuff, and you're like, I live like an hour along the road. Like, we're not something special, but so like I say, we were super on top of the world about that Avatar show, and it was genuinely, I think, the best show we've ever played, the most fun we've ever had on stage and stuff. So yeah, to play the Bloodstock, but then clash with Machine Head and be super tired in the heat and all that kind of stuff. Right. It kind of took the wind out of it a little bit, but like I say, it's probably the second best show we've ever done.
Right.
If that happened like 2-3 months after the Avatar show, you'd be like, yeah, this is the best thing ever. But because it happened the very next day, second doesn't seem as good as first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you guys had a killer time at that Avatar show. I mean,
yeah,
Avatar is awesome, and to be able to do a show with those guys, I mean, that says a lot there. So, great group of guys. But that's cool. That's an awesome experience. People coming up, that just shows you how much they love your music. They're just like, hey, can I have the set list? Can I do this? Like, it's just good to know. And it's a good feeling, I'm sure, to have that, those type of reactions come up, and
for sure,
people come up to you like that. It's awesome. So we're talking about, speaking of Avatar and speaking of playing Bloodstock and all those type of things, do you have a favorite venue you like performing at?
So in terms of locally, we have a few venues in Dundee. There was the venue where Chimera played that you were in, which is Beat Generator. We played there quite a lot over the years. There's a place just around the corner that's really started to be on the rise in the past couple of years called Church, which is an old church, would you believe, with a name like that? And it's a super cool venue, you know, nice stage. It's a bit bigger than the place Chimera played. It has a balcony that holds like another 150 upstairs or whatever. And it's a really nice venue. The staff there are super accommodating. The sound guy's always really nice. And so after the first round of COVID lockdowns and stuff, when live events first started to be allowed to happen again in Scotland, the rules were like a little bit fuzzy on them, you know, like what could happen, what couldn't. And so as soon as the government here confirmed that you could have an event indoors with up to 80 people, but it had to be seated, I organised the first metal show to happen in Scotland for like, I think it was 16 months at the time. So, you know, there'd been no shows from like March 2020 right the way through the rest of that year. We had nothing at all. And then May 2021, I think the government announced it would be allowed on the 17th of May, you know, from like the 21st onwards or whatever. And in the space of like a week, I managed to reach out to the guys at this venue, Church, and I managed to arrange to have like a socially distanced metal gig. So we had like tables and chairs and stuff. It was a little bit of a weird setup for a metal show, obviously. But it was the first metal show in Scotland for like over a year, and I organised it with the guys from that venue, Church. We put the tickets on sale. I pulled the lineup together super quick because I was like, you know, trying a little bit to fly under the radar in case anybody questioned whether it was really allowed within the rules and stuff.
Right.
So I pulled it together super fast. We sold it out in like record time. You know, Dundee's not a huge city. We don't have a huge scene or anything like that. But genuinely, I think people were like, holy shit, I can go see bands again. There's live music and stuff. Like this is amazing. So, so for me, because of that, and because of a few other shows we played there that have been really, really killer shows, that venue has like a really special place in my heart. You know, because that show was super, super emotional.
I'm sure.
You know, during COVID, one of my really close friends, you would have probably met him at that Chimera show, I think. He took his own life last year in January. And his parents gifted me one of his guitars. So because we headlined the show and we had a bit more like kind of production stuff than we would usually be able to have and stuff, we played a song called Brother from our album, which is like a song about mental health and depression and, you know, reaching out to your brothers who'll be there for you to pull you through these dark times and stuff. And we played that song, dedicated to him, and I used his guitar for it, and we had like a big projection with images of him above the stage, and like it was changing, you know, with the Samaritans number and stuff. So that was a really, really emotional night for me for a lot of reasons, you know, and it was the first show back in forever. It was sold out.
Damn.
So yeah, like I said, that venue is like is super special, and you know, when we did our release show for our most recent EP, we did it there, and we packed the house out again. So it's a cool place. They like having us. We like playing there. You know, it's a good vibe, good relationship, and that's what you want with local venues when you're a local band, you know?
Right. Wow. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of heart and soul in that venue there, as far as just things that you've done and accomplished to the things that you've dedicated to friends and family, man. That's absolutely outstanding. And I'm sorry to hear of your loss too, you know. Heart goes out to you on that, man. I know that feeling for sure. So you were talking about, now would the Avatar gig be like your favorite performance in your career so far?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
You know, I've been fortunate enough to play alongside a lot of my favorite bands over the years. The Chimera show where I met you, I played one of my first ever shows. I think I played four or five shows before, and my old band, we got to open up for Trivium. But when I look back on those shows, You know, when I look back on those shows and even the Chimera show, I don't think I was where I should have been as a musician to be playing those shows. The Chimera show, I just had an off day, and there's a live video of my old band from that show, and every time I see it, I cringe because like one of the solos is like all out of time and stuff. But you're like, well, you know, it was 10 years ago, things change, and so in recent years, I feel like I've been able to be really proud of my performances and stuff, and I think Avatar is one of the first big shows that we've played with, you know, to someone else's audience, not our own, that we've had a chance to really put across who we are, what we mean, what we sound like as a band. And I think that, yeah, I think it's probably my favorite show we've ever done. Maybe we played with Sacred Reich, you know, from Arizona, thrash band.
Yep.
And Dave McLean, obviously, who is ex Machine Head, is their drummer.
Yep.
He asked for us to be on the bill, which was sick, you know, because I have a good relationship with Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really cool anyway, because it was cool to just play with those guys. But our drummer actually, so I have a portrait of Phil Demmel on my arm here. Our drummer has a portrait of Dave McLean on his calf. Dave is like in his, like, you know, favorite drummers. And so we were playing, I can't remember which one of our songs it was, but I spotted out the corner of my eye Dave was standing at the side of the stage with his hood up, just watching our set. So I turned around to our drummer mid-set, you know, carried on playing. I was like, hey, Callum, look who's over there. And he looks up and he sees McLean and he's like, oh my God. He starts to screw up all the fills and stuff because he's like, my favorite drummer's watching me. But that was a super awesome show as well, you know. I think as I've got older as well, I started to appreciate shows where you're treated well by the, you know, especially if you're opening for someone bigger, the headline band treats you well, the promoter treats you well, where people start to give you a bit of respect and stuff. You get some good energy back off the crowd and stuff. I appreciate that a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So that kind of answers a lot of the questions I was like gonna go into. One of the things too, like, because you're talking about best performances and things like that, and you kind of brought up some of the ones that you regret, you know, that happened like 10 years ago. And I was going to ask, like, describe your worst performance and what did you learn from that experience? And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. And you were talking about that. You know, and we talked about the qualities too that make you a good musician in ways. And then you have those growing pains throughout the years that you kind of go, man, why was I doing that? And then you just learn from them. So believe me, even as a stage manager and drum tech, I learned a lot. I messed up so many times, but you just live and learn. Right? Yeah, it is. You just live and learn. Yeah. If you're not learning, you're not living, you know? So,
for sure.
So have you ever like taught anyone or gave lessons to anybody?
So way back years ago when I was in like just at the end of high school, I gave some lessons there was a place I used to go for lunch every day, like a little local cafe. And the people who owned that cafe asked me if I would teach their son. So I gave him a few lessons, but other than that, no. I've thought about it a few times, you know, especially when cash has been tight and things, because you're like, okay, I have this skill here that I could maybe monetize and maybe do something with. But I'm completely self-taught. You know, I never took any lessons or anything. And I think when it comes to metal, I'm a good guitar player. I have a good knowledge of like a bit of theory. I understand time signatures and like I understand keys and stuff a little bit. But I don't think that I would be a particularly good teacher because there's probably a lot of the foundational stuff about guitar playing that, embarrassingly, I don't really know, you know? Like if somebody said to me, you know, if somebody hands me an acoustic guitar and says, play Wonderwall or like, you know, show me a D chord or whatever, I'm I don't know. I could play some sweet pick arpeggios for you or something, but like, I've thought about it a few times and I kind of thought like, maybe the thing that I'm looking at as a weakness could make it my niche, you know?
Right.
Because there's going to be kids out there who want to learn guitar and their parents are going to send them to guitar lessons. And they want to learn Metallica and Slayer, but they go to guitar lessons and they get taught Wonderwall or Kumbaya or, you know, Baba Black Sheep or something. Like, so maybe that would be my niche. You know, come and learn metal guitar from a genuine metalhead, but I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, with me, I'm firmly guilty of that. Like when I was in school, I was in band, we have band here and everything. And I kind of faked my way through it. So I could read, but I couldn't sight read. So I'd memorize it at a slow pace and then speed myself up, and my band director caught me like in my senior year in high school. They were just like, so I was playing like a clave, like just a simple clave. And I was so off from it because we had to sight read it. And he like told me out in front of the entire orchestra, like called me out on it. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed right now. So I know that feeling. I'm a street drummer as well. Like I self-taught, I learned rudiments and stuff, but at the end of the day, I taught myself, so I can relate to you on that. So, so what would be the best piece of advice to another musician ever gave you? Is there a piece of advice that you've talked to another musician before that they gave you and you just kind of held on to that advice?
I think it's a really cliched one, but learn to play to a metronome. Anybody who's an experienced musician will probably tell you that. And obviously, we already discussed the merits of using click tracks live and stuff like that. So I don't mean that you need to learn to play to a metronome so that you can play to a metronome all the time. But if you build that, you as a drummer, you'll know, if you build that sort of internal clock where you can play something consistently at the same tempo without speeding up and slowing down, it's an invaluable skill to have, being able to just, hold things, especially for shows where you're playing and the monitor sounds maybe not very good and stuff. Like if you can grab onto that tempo from the start of the song and you can ride that and you're not like up and down too much. And also because even if you don't want to play to a click live, 99% of bands will always want to record to a click in the studio. And the amount of people I've met who, great guitar players and stuff, but they come to the record in the studio and it's just like a hot mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a long time, I couldn't really play to a click, and I learned to play to a click in the studio, which wasn't the best place to do it because you're paying, £25, which I guess is like $35 or something an hour in the studio to fumble your way through something not being on with a click. And so, now that I record myself, I think that's where I've really come into my own with that kind of thing because I can play to a click whenever, But yeah. Advice for anyone starting out as a musician or any other musician who's not doing it: play to a click.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can 100% agree to that. And I learned the hard way myself on that too. And it wasn't in the studio. Well, it was kind of in the studio, but then like we canceled the studio and then like I went back to like get used to playing to click. Yeah. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I was like 16 or 17 years old. Yeah. And there was like an interesting video. I don't know. It was just kind of viral for a second. I don't know if you may have seen it, and I don't know what band it was. They were playing a festival this year and I guess the drummer's in-ears went out. So he had no monitors and his tech was like tapping him.
His leg.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that is actually really smart. Like, holy crap. I never would have thought about that. That's pretty cool.
I think it was Polyphia. What I don't understand about that video though? If the tech's in-ears are working, why didn't he just give his in-ears to the drummer?
That's true. That is true.
Like he sat there for the whole set tapping. You're like,
yeah.
Just give him your belt pack, dude.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I never thought about it that way too either. It's a good point. So
it's insane they managed to do it and pull it off, but I was like, damn, bro, that's not the most obvious solution here. Like,
yeah, that is pretty funny if you didn't think about it that way. I don't know. Maybe he just took his ears, like his in-ears, and just like threw them or something. And they have the custom molds or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. There's probably a reason for it, right? Because like you got to assume if the guy's smart enough to tap it, he's probably smart enough to have thought of that too. So there's probably a reason. But I just thought it was a little bit weird. Because like that guy had to be able to hear the click to be able to tap it, right?
Right. Yeah, he would have had to. So that is crazy. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that at that time. That's crazy. So in the process of, I guess we probably should have talked about this when we were talking about performances, but do you follow a process or a ritual? Like does your band follow a ritual before a performance? to get rid of nerves or performance anxiety or anything like that?
No, not really. Like, the size of band we are and the level we're at, a lot of the time we don't even arrive at the show together because we need to split the gear over a couple of cars or whatever. So sometimes it's a bit disjointed and it's just like throw the stuff on stage and go. But
Okay.
like in the run up, like if I know we have a show, like I'll, the day before in the evening and whatever, I'll make a Spotify playlist of the set, run through it a couple of times and stuff. But I think that I don't really get nervous for shows, I find actually the smaller shows that are less busy make me more nervous than the big shows, because like the shows where you're playing in a bar to 10 people and they're all standing like this. Every
Right.
one of those people is watching for every mistake you make. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're playing to a packed room, nobody cares. People are moshing, people are having a good time, people are drinking. Like, so the big shows don't bother me at all. So I don't even really think about like kind of stage fright or anything like that.
Right.
We do the usual cheesy, like right before we go on, everybody's fist bumping and whatever.
Right.
But like,
Right. Yeah.
everybody will do a warm up. If it's a venue with a green room, we'll do a guitar warm up and stuff. But quite a lot of the time, I find if I warm up too much, I start to get in my own head about stuff. I'll warm up and then I'll start to run through some of the solos, and then every time I do that at a show, I play the solos all terribly. So I'm like, I should just leave them. I know them; they're in my head. And if I start to fuss on them, like the
Right.
more fuss I make out of it, the worse I play. Whereas if I just like go on, grab my guitar and go, then I'll kill it every time.
Right. Yeah, there's some really crazy rituals of some people that I've talked to, and including some of the people I've worked with. And if they have a stage where you have to step up on stairs to get to the stage, I've had guitarists be like, I can't step with my left foot first or it'll be a bad show. I have to step up with my right foot first. I'm like, what? Really? And they're just like, yeah, I mean, it just happens that way. And I'm like, so crazy, So there's like small little things like that they'll say, just little small rituals. There's some people I know that won't even practice the day before a show because they're just like, no, that's bad. You don't want to do that. It's just weird. Some of the things I've heard are just so crazy.
Actually, a really weird one for me was like, I'm so used to setting my own stuff up. You take your head on stage, you put on the cab and stuff. At Bloodstock, they had a drum tech and a guitar tech for the stage, and they took my stuff, and I felt like it completely threw me before going on stage because I'm so used to like the show ritual. I put my head up, I check the ohms, I run my cables for my pedal board and stuff, and I feel like it totally threw me because I was like, oh, like I still have 15 minutes. Somebody else has done all this stuff. What am I supposed to do? So I just like stood for 15 minutes, and I feel like that was weird. And like that's, people would think, oh, that's helpful. It's going to make a more relaxed process for going on stage. And actually, I think it made me more like,
yeah, give you a little bit
just because it was different. It's like something that we're not used to.
Yeah, it took away from that ritual that you're used to doing. So you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Oh, did I forget something? And like, you're just kind of freaking out. Yeah, I could see where that could be a little bit of anxiety there. So what would you do if you made a mistake during a performance? Is there some way you handle it? Like, can you brush it off real easy, or does it just like linger with you?
Yeah, generally speaking, I can brush it off. Sometimes one of our tracks, there's a section in the middle that like everything drops out and it's just me basically, and I screwed that up at a show, and every show, I played it perfectly every show for like 2 years or whatever. I screwed it up at one show, and then for the next 5 or 6 shows, I screwed it up at every single one, and I was like,
no.
Like, why can't I play this? But it's not even a difficult part. It's a super simple riff. We have a lot more difficult stuff in the set. I play all the solos, which are way more difficult than this riff. But like, once I'd screwed it up once, it was like every time I got to that part in the set, I'd be like,
it kind of gets in your head. It gets in your head.
Yeah, don't screw this up. So we were opening with that song, and that was really bad for me because I was, we were opening with it. I was screwing it up. Then the next 2 songs, I'd be like, idiot. idiot, why did you do that? You're an idiot. And then you start to screw up other stuff. So we've flipped the set, and that song is now our closer instead, because we released a new EP and stuff anyway, so it kind of made sense to tweak stuff a bit. But yeah, so now we don't open with that song, and since we changed where it is in the set, I haven't messed it up once again.
Nice.
And like I say, I've known it for years anyway. I've played it fine for, I don't know, 40, 50 shows probably. But once I screwed it up that one time, it just
it sticks with you.
Most mistakes, like you just you shrug them off. If it's something that's like kind of stupid, me and the other guitar player maybe like look at each other and laugh. Like we just get on with it. We're there to have a good time. We're not packing out arenas at £200 a ticket. Nobody's going to be super upset if we're not exactly like the record or whatever. Obviously, we want to put on a show we can be proud of and like not disappoint anybody and not disappoint ourselves. But I'm not going to get too hung up on like bending a note, a couple of cents too sharp or something like that. It's not worth being upset about,
Right.
It's live. It's unpredictable. Sometimes you can't see because the stage lights are super different, or because the lighting guy has decided to put strobes on like in a really inopportune moment or something. You need to be able to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
you
just get on with it.
There is a lot of variables in shows, that's for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And for most time, it's like with anything, it's like if you think about something so much, you're going to like dread on it too. And then the things that you're not thinking about, you're just going to get through them. It's so crazy how it works. It's like, it's kind of funny sometimes. So you guys just dropped some new music. If people want to come check out that new music, can they find it? Where can they find it at?
So it's on all of your usual streaming services. It's on Apple Music, Amazon Music, it's on Spotify, it's on Deezer, all those kind of guys. We have a Bandcamp page, which I am terrible and don't remember the URL of.
Okay, that's fine.
We've got, Facebook, which is facebook.com/Catalysis Metal. We're on Instagram at Catalysis Band, so you can find us there. You can find us on YouTube, which is, I think, youtube.com/Catalysis Metal. Again, we've got a whole bunch of music videos there, some live videos and stuff too, a couple of lyric videos and stuff. So we're in all the usual places.
So what question do you wish I would have asked, and how would you have answered?
I guess the question I always like to answer in interviews is, where did the band name come from? Because we've got like a kind of true story and a lie for that.
Okay.
So the lie is like the cool version, which is, the word catalysis comes from catalyst. It's the process of speeding up a chemical reaction, of fusing different elements together to create a reaction. And so that really describes the sonics of our band, as like taking a lot of influences from different parts of metal, thrash and groove and death metal and stuff, and putting it together to create this explosive reaction. So that's like the cool, where did the name come from, which is pretty believable as far as stories go. But the actual place the name came from is that years ago, when I was first starting out, like getting bands together and stuff, my dad and I were speaking, and he told me that he'd always wanted to do a metal band and call it Catalysis. And so when my old band split up and I got this band together, I was trying to think of a name, and I just messaged my dad on Facebook and I was like, "Hey Dad, what was that name you had for a metal band you always wanted to use?" And he messaged back and said Catalysis, and I was like, "Right, there we go. That's the name for my new band." So that's the real story of where the name came from. I stole it from my dad. But
that's actually really kind of awesome. That's actually really cool, I think, because that's your father. He was always wanting to use that name, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to use it, That's like really awesome.
I'll carry that torch, My dad's like one of my musical heroes, I didn't touch on it in the interview, but I actually played in a punk rock band with my dad for a while.
Oh, wow.
So we played, we did an EP and a couple of singles and did a whole bunch of shows and stuff, but basically he plays in another punk band too, and a lot of the guys that were in the band we were in ended up joining that band, so it basically ended up with the same lineup, just with someone different on guitar. So he
Okay.
decided to only go ahead with one of those bands, and the one he was in previously had much more of a pedigree and a reputation, and they're playing like all the big punk shows in the UK, Rebellion Festival and stuff. So they carried
Nice.
on that one. We've spoken a few times about getting our band back together, but you know, even if it doesn't happen, it was super cool to make music with my dad and to be able to put out, you know, we put out some vinyl and stuff like that, which is something I've never been able to do with the metal
Wow.
bands I've been in. So it was cool. You know,
That
not many
is
people have that opportunity to make music with their father, and certainly not, you know, not this kind of aggressive, extreme music. You know.
right, 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 right. So was it more, what type of punk was it? Would you say it was more kind of like a sick of it all, like an East Coast hardcore punk, or was it more your um I don't know, I guess more of the relative type of just punk rock in general?
Yeah, like kind of more punk rock, like somewhere between Bad Religion and Sick of It All. Like in places it had, because I'm a metal player through and through, so like in
Right.
places my metal influences started to, you know, creep in a little bit more. But overall, like it was more leaning towards like the Fat Wreck, you
Okay.
know, Bad Religion, Pennywise, that kind of feel, and also like a lot of, you know, the kind of the British street punk bands that had a big influence on like early Metallica, your GBH, Exploited, things like that.
Right, right,
So it
right.
was kind of kind of a bit of a melting pot because you had guys that were into different stuff there, you know.
That's
Um,
cool. That's awesome. I didn't know you did that. That's like really cool that you and your dad jammed together like that. That's awesome. You know, I love punk. I grew my one of my first bands I played in was punk, you know, but it was more of like, it's more like a hardcore punk, you know. We were more kind of like
yeah,
an agnostic front, 25 to life, sick of it all kind of thing. So
yeah.
but I loved it all. I loved like Bad Religion and Black Flag, and like listening to all that kind of stuff was really awesome. So um cool. Right on. Oh, and there's one more thing I wanted to ask you too is do you currently have endorsements or anything? Like you want to do a shout out or anything?
No, so we don't have any endorsements. We're kind
Okay.
of at Bloodstock. We were speaking to a company called Vocal Zone quite a bit. We've been using their product for a really long time.
Mhm.
They're like a family-run business from the UK, and their product is basically a throat lozenge for singers.
Okay.
And everybody's using them. Like Tom Jones uses them, for example, and stuff. You know, so some of these like big names.
Wow.
And a lot of like the guy from Vocal Zone was telling us the other day, like a lot of like American TV show hosts and stuff use them as well for their voice. Um, and so, like I say, we've been using them for a really long time. I
Okay.
found out about them through a friend.
Cool.
So even though we don't have an endorsement deal with them, we did a bit of speaking about them and stuff. And I just want to shout out them because speaking with them at the weekend, the guys who were there at the festival, they're a family-run business. The guy George was like an absolutely first-class guy, super nice, super friendly. Their product is amazing. So any singers out there, check out Vocal Zone. You know you can't go wrong with it. And like I say, we're not endorsed by them, so nobody's paying me to say this or anything. But we really love their product, and I think anybody who's doing vocals, especially this kind of aggressive music, you know, it can be pretty tough on the throat, tough on the voice. So check out Vocal Zone. Great guys, great product, great business.
Super
Check those
cool.
out.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some good stuff there, man. Especially if you're not even endorsed with them and you're giving them a shout out. That's great. That sounds
Oh yeah,
that
for
speaks
sure.
millions. And
Yes, man.
again, I really appreciate you showing in and giving up your time to come out and do this. I know it's super late there, and I definitely really appreciate it. So do you have any ending thoughts, any questions, anything you want to talk about before we end?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on, Jerry. You know, I saw your post when you were looking for people to speak to. Thought I'd reach out, and it's been great to catch up, great to reconnect. Really appreciate anybody who's taken the time to tune in, to watch and listen. You know, hopefully some of you guys will go on to check out the band. Thanks so much for your time, and like I say, thanks for your time as well, Jerry. It's really appreciated.
Absolutely. And it's a pleasure having you on the show. And maybe we can do like a checkup later on, like 6 months down the road or something, and just
Yeah,
touch base
sure.
and see how things are going. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, yeah, we can do that. Definitely.
hey guys, that's the end of the video. I appreciate you guys sticking around through its entirety. I appreciate each and every one of you. Love you guys all. Thank you so much for your support. Also, these videos are shot live. I want you guys to know that. So if you guys ever want to interact with any of the people that I do these interviews with, head on over to my Facebook, hit that follow button. That way you guys get notified anytime I go live. And it's usually at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time every Friday. Also, don't be shy. Give me a thumbs up on this video here on YouTube and leave me a comment at the bottom. If you guys have any comments, anything you guys want to suggest, feel free, leave those comments. I love the feedback. Big shout out to Drew Cochrane as well. There's a huge time difference. He's in Dundee, Scotland. I'm in the United States in Oklahoma. So there's like a 7 hours difference, and he even still stuck to the schedule with me being able to go on my regular time at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So super cool. Thank you so much, Drew. I appreciate you all. Also, I'm gonna have all his socials at the bottom with Catalysis and him, so that way you guys can go over, check out their music, you know, tell them Jerry Lowlife sent you. And also, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And if you are digging these videos here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It'll help me out very much, and you guys will also get notified anytime I upload a new video. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Have yourselves a super fantastic day. See you later.